It's called accountability for yourself. Now, it is true. It's called doing the film. Where there are masculine men, there are signs. What do I mean? This whole toxic masculinity farce that people try to toss out. Masculinity protects the community. Masculinity raises and respects children. Masculinity secures women. Masculinity makes it to where you're not going to step over here and not get checked if you don't operate belief. That's what masculinity is. Toxicity is the opposite of masculinity. You can't even put those together. You never hear people talk about toxic femininity because the agenda is to make the man.
So that's the problem that I have. You heard what he said about masculinity, right? This is Rizza Islam. What happens when you have to use your black masculinity against toxic masculinity? Right? Let's talk about that. Let's not put them together. Let's have a war in between both of them. Now just think about it before I go further. Think about what he said about masculinity. Right? Now my thing is, what happens when righteous masculinity, righteous black masculinity, since everything has to be about race and color and things like that, black masculinity versus toxic black masculinity. Let's think about that. Let's talk about that. He just talked about how masculinity is supposed to protect the community, right? He can't protect the community where he's from. He can't protect the women and children in the community that he's from. He can't clean up that community where he's from because toxic niggas is in that community killing other black people. What's going on in Compton, California? What's going on in Compton? Black people are murdering other black people. Compton, California is violent as hell. Right? It's violent. So let's do some history on Compton, right? Let's do a little history on Compton. A lot of people don't know that Compton, right, was discovered by a man named Griffith, or not say discovered, named after a man named Griffith Dickinson Compton, a Methodist minister, a white man, married to a woman, Anna, had 2 kids. He led a group of 30 pioneers to that area that you see as Compton, California right now in 1867. It was originally called, I think it was originally called Gibsonville, right? And then they changed it into Comptonville, but I think it was another city called Comptonville, and I think it was called Yuba County, right? So they just shortened it to Compton. That's the beginning. Now, as years went by, right? Compton ended up having this, being incorporated, as a self-incorporated city in the county, had a population of like 500 people. And then the Methodist Reverend, he dies, right? The founder, he dies in 1905. I think he's like 85 years old or whatever. Some sources say, in my research, that he helped build the University of Southern California, USC, but it's not really no real proof. It could have been done under the table or whatnot. Who really knows? Now, as the years went on and on and on, Compton was predominantly just white people in there, right? Until right before, I think it was World War II, when black people started, moving into the area a little bit, right? And there was racial tension, just like any other city, pretty much, when you started having those mixed cultures. And then years went by, and then we had integration in the United States, where integration made white people not respect the law. They didn't want to live amongst black people for whatever reason. So what white people did was they was like, fuck that community that I've been living in all my goddamn life, and I'm going to move away somewhere far away, and I'm going to let you black people have what I left behind, which was not a fucking ghetto. Those communities that those white people abandoned and left behind for black people were goddamn brand new, just brand new. Brand new. White people didn't live in no ghettos like that. Right? Soon as black people got together and moved into that community that was left for white people, gangs started to form. Why was gangs needed? Well, Crips and Bloods was started, in the late 60s or whatever like that. Because like a lot of police officers was probably going into those neighborhoods and everything like that, doing weird shit to black people, beating their ass, whatever type of thing that was going on at that time. And gangs were initially formed to be able to protect the community from unrighteous white people going in the community, causing mayhem and malicious violence. We can agree with that, right? Later on, Crips, then there's Bloods, and there's all gangs, and then later on, the gangs turn on each other. Black people murdering other black people. Then no white person came in there and tell them to kill each other. It was just black people all together in one location at the same time, had some type of need to murder each other. Now, a lot of people was talking about in California and LA and all that stuff about the crack cocaine epidemic. Let's dive into that real quick, because that's been used as an excuse as to why the black community started to getting fucked up. Well, let's examine that then. So they say that white people or the federal government drop large amounts of cocaine in bags or in bricks or whatever packaging it was, and just put it in the community and just left it there. That's what they said. So in my brain, I'm thinking, using logic, I'm thinking like, okay, if a black person just walked by and you see 20 bricks of cocaine, right? Why don't you just leave it there? It's not yours. When you open it for the first time and you ask somebody, what is this? They told you, hey man, that's cocaine. Okay, why you didn't throw it away? Why you didn't put it back to where it was? Instead, what the black male did, the black male took that cocaine. If it is true, right? If it is true that they left it there. Some people say it is, some people say it ain't. But I'm taking the side of black people who said it was there. If it was there, a black male took that cocaine, right? That brick or whatever packaging it was in, took it back to his house, found a way of mixing ingredients together, and created a recipe which developed crack cocaine. Once that black male figured out who in the community liked crack cocaine and was able to make a profit off of people in the community who liked crack cocaine, they sold it to him for a profit. Now, the black male tells me he's a victim of what the white man did. And I don't believe he's a victim. I think he's a co-conspirator. Because they tell me that the FBI, CIA, whatever, put the crack cocaine on, in the community, on the ground somewhere, or laid it there. They didn't, wasn't no white person selling drugs to black people in the community, right? They said it was just sitting there, right? So if that was what white people wanted to do, to use cocaine to destroy the black community, then the black male helped them do it. Who was serving black people in the community with crack cocaine? It wasn't white people. It was the black male. And when all that crack cocaine, when all that initial cocaine that they said that was left on the streets or whatever like that, they kept going back over and over and over again, which they call re-upping, buying more cocaine, turning it into more crack, and selling it to more black people in their own community. Then what happens is black families begin to be torn apart. That black male to turn that black woman into a crackhead. Black children were coming out crack babies because the black male helped the white man destroy them black families. That black male bragged about selling crack. He bragged about the money he made from selling crack. He bragged about having black people addicted to crack. He made fun of black women and black children who were addicted to crack. He made fun of black families that was addicted to crack. He laughed at them. He pointed fingers at them. He ridiculed them. He passed judgment on them. That's crazy, man. That is crazy. to understand that right there. That is crazy. So what I say to Rizza Islam is this. You can talk all that masculinity shit all the motherfucker you want to, man. But you won't talk to your own people who are destroying your people. You won't go to Compton, California and create a nation or an army to rid the community that you grew up in from drug dealers. That's holding somebody accountable. That's masculinity, right? Masculinity ain't just about skin color, is it? Masculinity is about a social issue that needs to be changed, that needs to be revolutionized, and it needs to disappear for the greater good of the people in the community. That's what masculinity is supposed to do. It ain't about your color. If you see drug dealers in your community selling fucking drugs to black women and black children and having black children sell drugs to other black people, why can't your masculinity come in there and stop that shit from happening? Why aren't you even putting in the effort to stop it from happening? White people ain't holding you back. Ain't no white person saying, "Oh, Rizza Islam, don't do that." Or maybe it is. Maybe it is white people telling you not to do anything. Because why have you done anything? You grew up in that area. Look at the prostitution and the pimps. Why can't you go in there and stop them from destroying the black family? You know why? Because you're so focused on that white man. You love that motherfucking white man, dude. That white man is your daddy. You look up to that white man. You are so far up that white man's ass and in his house peeking through the motherfucking windows every goddamn day, seeing what the fuck he doing. But you ain't looking in your own fucking community right now and saying, how can I change that shit to make it better? What can I do for my own brain to eliminate all these motherfucking problems that are destroying people in the community that I grew up in? We don't hear none of that shit from Rizza Islam, do we? None of that shit. And Compton has a black mayor. And you have the Nation of Islam as people you can work with to be able to help you in the community. Right? You have all these people. It's crazy, man. It's crazy how that man who founded Compton, right, has to look from wherever he is in the spiritual world and look at you motherfucking niggas, man, destroy something he tried to create to make beautiful for human beings on this fucking planet, man. When you niggas moved in to Compton, after all them white people left, you turned that shit into a ghetto. You turned that shit into a war zone. You turned that shit into a genocidal battlefield, murdering other black people, destroying that black woman, destroying black children. You murdered so many fucking black women's children. For what? For that white man drugs? For that white man's cocaine? Or that Spanish person cocaine? That is incredible to be able to understand that right there. I don't believe none of these niggas are black revolutionaries. I believe all these niggas is fraudulent because they cannot even go back to their own community with an army. Like, you are part of the Nation of Islam. And what's so crazy too is everybody is your brother. The drug dealer is your brother. The rapist, the black rapist dude who rapes innocent children, that's your brother because he got black skin. Anybody with black skin is your brother. They can do the most vile, fucking unrighteous shit to other black people around this goddamn world, but they are still your brother. That's fucked up, man. What about your sisters? When you talk that masculinity shit, who's protecting the black women in Compton? Are black women safe in Compton? No, they're not. They'll tell you that shit. Who's protecting the black women from domestic violence in Compton? Who's protecting the black women from being raped in Compton? Who is protecting the black women's children in Compton? We talking masculinity, right? Who's protecting them? Nobody. Rizza Islam ain't. He ain't helping with that shit. He's not even trying. Rizza Islam is spending so much time on these people podcasts talking about what the white man is doing. But he's not even talking about what he could be doing for his own goddamn community, man. We don't hear none of that shit. Because he's a coward. And he's a liar. And he's fraudulent out here in the black community doing the white man's work. That's what he's doing. That's what he's doing, man. That white man that founded that city, Compton, that I'm talking about right now. Why can't Rizza Islam, with all the land in this goddamn world that they talk about, all these black dudes be talking about, oh, we need to buy land, we need to go ahead and grow the food from the earth, and we need to do this, blah 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 blah. But we don't never see none of them niggas do none of that. We don't never see them go get no land. That white man did that shit in the 1800s. He took 30 people and his family, went to a city, or went to an area, it wasn't even a city yet, went to an area and settled on that area. With way less technology than we have now, way less money than we have now, way less resources than we had now. All that man had was a vision and a dream, man, and he accomplished it. He began it before he died. After he died, it became whatever it's going to be. But while he was alive, that community was flourishing. Why can't Rizza Islam do the same thing right now in America? Why can't he find a piece of land? Take half of those people. Just take 10 people. Settle on that land. And start calling it Islam land or Rizza land or Rizza County or Rizza City or whatever the fuck. Why he can't do it? Because it ain't in him to do it. Because he don't give a fuck about black people like that.